You had a long day at your work, and now it's finally time to head back home. You hop in your car, put on some good music, and drive off. Before long, you come across a red light, and so you stop and wait for it to turn green. And after a minute, you realize, wait, why am I following traffic rules when I'm playing GTA? Fuck the rules, I'm gonna run over every single person in sight. Why? Because I can. Traffic rules in GTA are just suggestions, but not in real life, unless you live in India. Like me.
Please help me.
They are the reason why we can drive safely on the roads, and without them, the streets would look like a normal GTA session in real life. Again, unless you live in India. So today, we are going to go through the fascinating history of traffic lights and how they actually work. So let's get started. It's the late 19th century in the UK.
Hello, I'm a British person.
And the Industrial Revolution is at its peak and attracted workers from all over the country. At the center of it all was London, with crowded streets full of horse-driven carts, motor vehicles, and pedestrians going from one place to another. Most of the transportation of goods were carried out with the help of the horses, and the roads were not like F1 tracks. They were just dirt and mud. All this caused an increase in traffic, leading to a rise in accidents at an alarming rate. It's not that there were no rules at all, but the issue was that each street had its own rules and regulations, and even then, they were never followed. As the time was passing by, it was becoming clear that this problem could no longer be ignored and needed to be dealt with. That's when John Peake Knight, a railway manager, stepped in with a solution inspired by the method used by the railway to control traffic. His idea was to set up a system with small arms extending from a pole, similar to how railways would indicate whether to pass or to stop. In Knight's adaptation, during the day, the pillars will use two arms lowered to allow traffic to move freely and raised to signal the drivers to stop. And at night, red and green lights would be used instead. All the signaling was managed by a police officer stationed next to the signal. These were powered by gas, like how these street lamps used to work in the past. The idea quickly gained momentum and was approved by the parliament in 1868. Police authorities started printing pamphlets and distributing them throughout the city, informing drivers and pedestrians about the new changes. And it showed promising results. Traffic flow was getting better and more people were getting informed about the rules. Everything was going right, but then a disaster struck. In January, a leak in the gas line caused a signal to explode, resulting in severely burning the face of the constable who had been operating it. The traffic signal was taken down shortly and was never replaced. Following this traumatic experience, the UK gave up on controlling the traffic and continued to struggle with its traffic issue for decades. As we reach the next century, we will be leaving the UK and will hop onto a new journey. This time, we are heading to USA to witness the rest of the history of traffic lights.
Okay, let's go.
The 20th century has begun, and with it came an exponential increase in motor vehicles. Cars were getting more affordable and suitable for mass commutes, leading more and more people to buy them. And to manage this chaos introduced by this huge influx of cars, traffic officers stood on small platforms in the middle of the intersections trying to direct the traffic. However, automobiles were very unpredictable and dangerous at that time. Why, you ask? Because people were just assholes, turning and stopping at will without ever considering the traffic signals, leaving pedestrians at risk. Another major issue was with the police officer controlling the traffic. Since so much was happening on the road at the same time, it was becoming too overwhelming for the officers to keep up with the traffic. Even for a well-trained officer, standing in the middle of a busy intersection all day in all kinds of weather was exhausting and basically unmanageable. Traffic was increasing rapidly and it became clear that it's impossible to control the traffic without any proper system. So, the problem was inevitable and the government had to deal with it ASAP. And here enters Lester Wire, the head of the traffic bureau, and was ready to change the traffic system forever. He started working on creating a new traffic light using railway traffic signals as a reference. By 1914, he succeeded and created a traffic light that operated using electricity, which got later installed in Cleveland, Ohio.
My name is Cleveland.
The design of the traffic light looked like a birdhouse containing green and red light on all four sides. The traffic light was controlled by a police officer stationed at the side of the road, and due to its design, it earned multiple nicknames like Weyer's Bird Cage, Weyer's Pigeon House, and the Flashing Bird House. The public reaction was not good at first. Well, it was the first time for Americans that their freedom was taken away from them, so some kind of resistance was expected. Drivers straight up ignored the traffic lights, and at night, some even vandalized them. Despite the initial backlash, for authorities it was clear that a system was required to control the traffic, and this new invention had potential to become an invaluable tool for the society. And as a result, traffic lights began to be manufactured and installed at intersections all across USA. While JP Knight created the first ever traffic lights, it was Lester Weyer who refined and perfected them for practical use. Fast forward to 1917, traffic lights got popular with more people following it. However, there were still some shortcomings with the Lester's traffic light.
Sorry.
One major drawback was that the traffic lights didn't give drivers sufficient time to stop at high speeds. Let's say you are driving your car and from 200 meters away, you see the traffic light is green, and just when you are about to cross the intersection, it turns to red. Now, you are in a situation where you have to stop, which could lead to an accident. Also, it was getting harder for officers to change multiple lights at the same time, and because of these reasons, a new signal was added to provide a buffer period between red and green light. And well, you can't imagine which color they picked. Yellow. Up to this point, traffic signals were manually handled by police officers stationed at intersections. While this method worked well so far, the ever-growing USA was at a point where traffic lights were becoming necessary at nearly every single crossing. This meant more officers were needed to handle those traffic lights, leading to higher costs for training and salaries. And it was the government who had to spend all this money. Soon, it became clear that this approach wasn't scalable and a more cost-effective solution was needed. The issue was solved by an old railway signal company called Cruise-Hinds. They were the first one who added an internal clock in the traffic lights, making it automated and eliminating the need for officers to manually controlling the lights. This was big. The innovation was highly successful, saving New York City around $12 million. That's around $244 million today. Over time, the implementation of automated signals spread all across the country. By 1926, New York alone had 98 automatic traffic lights. After looking at the success of traffic lights in the USA, the rest of the world quickly followed. UK had their first automated traffic lights in 1927. Asia saw its first traffic light in Hafia, Israel, and Japan introduced traffic lights in Hibiya district of Tokyo in 1930. A lot of research was going on how to optimize and exploring new features that could be added to the traffic lights. And people got too creative. One of the big brain idea someone came up with was to add a mic to the traffic light so that when a car reaches the intersection, the driver could honk to signal the traffic light to change. Thank God, it didn't make it into reality. Fuck. From here, the improvements were focused on making the traffic light more efficient and reducing cost and maintenance. The recent major change the traffic lights had was the inclusion of a countdown timer, letting the pedestrians and drivers know when the lights will change. And now, we will head into our last chapter, how traffic lights actually work. In current times, traffic lights can be broadly divided into two types, fixed timed and sensor based. Fixed time traffic signals work on a pretty simple logic. The timers are preset, meaning the red and green lights will change at fixed intervals regardless of traffic condition on either side of the road. These are ideal for intersections where traffic is steady and predictable in all directions. On the other hand, sensor-based traffic lights work using three components: sensor, controller, and timer. Have you ever seen these kinds of marking at traffic lights? These are inductive loops embedded in the road. So when a vehicle passes over these loops, the sensor detects its presence, signaling to the system that the vehicle is waiting for the light to be changed. There are different kinds of sensors that are used, like cameras that would process the video and give an appropriate input to the controller. The controller will then calculate and decide when the lights will be changing from red to yellow and yellow to green. This is the technology behind how traffic lights actually work, efficiently managing traffic in real time. And with this, we have covered everything that I wanted to cover in this video. Before we finish, I have collected some facts that are kind of interesting. These won't blow your mind, but will make you go. In South Africa, the traffic lights are called robots, and the reason behind is they are automated.
What the fuck?
And here's one from Japan. Japan doesn't have a green light. Instead, they have a blue light. Well, technically, it's still a green light because it's the bluest shade of green possible. Lastly, this abomination, done by the UK and can be seen in London. It's an art piece and has won some awards. I didn't care to look up which award it won because either way, this is ugly as shit. That's all from my side. Bye.
So please whatever.